Today I want to touch on a topic that is so short and sweet that you only hear about it really once in grade 10, and yet it follows you all the way through to grade 12. And if you weren't concentrating, or you were sick the day, or you just forgot, this is something that can haunt you all the way through to grade 12. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about domain and ranges. So in this lesson, I'm going to quickly try to break down exactly what is a domain and what is a range. If I had to give you an equation that says y equals 2x, and I had to say x is an element of, and I give you values -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. What we're saying is that this value is an element of one of those values. So what you can do then is you can substitute the value into x and you'll get the y value. And we therefore say the output values of y will then be an element of, and then it'll be -4, because 2 times -2 is -4. Exactly the same, -1 times 2 is -2. And then so you'll go on and you'll work out what the y values are. So if you can understand, what we're actually saying is if x is these elements, then y will equal these elements. We can reverse it as well. If we say that y are these elements, then x will be those elements. So let's take it to the next level. The next level would be if I have a graph. On the top here, this is a circle, not an arrow, that's open. And on the bottom, it's a solid enclosed circle. So we know that if it's a solid enclosed circle, that means it's including that value. If it's an open value, it means it does not include that value. So if we had to look at this, and I had to say, well, x is an element of what? You would go and you write x is an element of. On the one hand, we have it includes, so it could be a square bracket. And on the other side, it does not include, so it'll be a round bracket. We can separate the two, because over here we can see x is a -2. So x is the element of -2, and we can see that x is the element of 1. But does not include because it's a round bracket, and does include because it's a square bracket. We can also write this a different way, where we put x in the middle, and then we got x is greater than and x is less than. What is x greater than? X is greater than -2, that value, but x is less than 1, which is this value. But, big but, remember, this means inclusive, so therefore x is less than equal to -2. This does not include, therefore x is less than 1. And in the same way, we could use the same graph to depict y. Y is the element of, and as you can see at the bottom there, it's a square bracket because it includes. On the top, it's a round bracket because it does not include. Put a semicolon. What are the y values of this graph? It'll be -1 and 2. We could also write this as y in the middle. Y is greater than, y is less than. What is y greater than? And before I even continue, it's not just greater than, it's also equal to. And that will be -1. And what is y less than? It is less than 2 and does not include 2. So here we have another graph. We can add values here, 1 and say -1. But in essence, we have a graph. And if I tell you x is an element of, is it inclusive of anything? So in other words, does it include that value? And the answer would be no, because we can see the arrows are continuous. So it carries on that way and it carries on this way. So it goes on and on and on. So we would have round brackets because it does not include a value. Now, where does it stop? Nobody knows where it stops. Therefore, this will be to -infinity and this will be to +infinity. Or another way of writing it, it includes all values of real numbers. Therefore, x is an element of real numbers. In the same way, you could do it with y, because the y, or the range, carries on and on and on. Nobody knows where it stops. So y will be an element of round brackets, because we don't know what it includes, minus infinity to infinity. Or y is an element of all real numbers. Another way of writing it out, put y there, is greater than, less than, minus infinity, and infinity. So there's three different ways of writing this out. Okay, so here we have a parabola. And the first thing I'm going to say is, what is the domain? So let's first remember, what is the difference between domain and range? So domain has to do with all the values of x. Range has to do with all the values of y. So the important thing now is how can we remember it? Well, if this is D comes before R, then this will talk about all the x values, and this will talk about all the y values. So x comes before y. So if we're talking domain, we're talking about the x values. If we're talking range, we're talking about the y values. If I had to ask you, and let's just say, for example, this is 9. If I had to ask you, what is the domain of this graph? You can then write it in many different ways. I'll write them down. Let's say x is an element of, and let me see, x is all these values over here. And what do we see about x? It just goes on and on and on. And what do we see about x on this side? It also just goes on and on and on. So it goes to infinity. Therefore, does it include any specific value? No, it doesn't. So we give it round brackets. We can then go, well, this is going to go to minus infinity, because remember, this way it just goes negative. So it'll go to minus infinity. And this one will go to positive infinity. Another way of writing this would be, x is an element of real numbers. And another way would be, if we put x there, bigger than, less than, it'll be minus infinity and plus infinity. Three different ways to write the same thing for the domain. Now I'm going to ask you, give me the range of what's happening in the graph. So the range is referring to the y values. As you can see, as we go down this way, it'll go on and on and on, and there will be no stopping. However, when we go upwards, we'll see we'll hit a limit of 9. So one way we can do this is we could go y is an element of. On the one side, we'll have a round bracket, because it'll just go on and on and on and on. On the other side, we're going to have a square bracket. Why? Because it stops at 9. So what we'll have is minus infinity. It'll go on to minus infinity, but it'll stop at 9. Stop and include 9. Another way we could do this is we could go y is less than equal to 9. It's less than equal to 9. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, please drop your question in the questions below. We'll read and respond as soon as possible. If you need more help with math, please click the link below. That goes to my channel, and go view what we have available there.